Welcome to the Alchemy of Ascension Season 4, Activation of Awareness, Well-Being, Intimacy, and Self-Mastery. I'm your host, Washela Sananda, and today it's my pleasure to introduce you to Jimmy Mack. Welcome, Jimmy.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
I'm so happy to have you here and share you with the Alchemy of Ascension audience. So before we jump in, I'd like us all to do a short alignment meditation just to get us all present and ready for what's going to happen here today. So I invite you to begin by closing your eyes and deepening the breath into the belly. And just allowing yourself to be filled with golden light. And as you're breathing that golden light, tune in to the light in your heart and feel that light expanding, glowing, and growing out around your chest. And now bring your awareness far above your head to the source of central sun and the heart of the central sun. And bring that central sun energy down through the crown of your head, down the spine through the heart center, all the way down to the base of the spine, and then continuing down into the center of the earth, into the heart light of Mother Earth, and contacting that heart light of the divine feminine. Bring that energy up through the layers of the earth, through the roots, liquid crystal plasma, and let that enter into the base of your feet, the base of your spine, moving up the spine into your heart. And now feel that trinity of light from above, below, and within, creating a portal of awareness, anchoring the light in your body, opening the heart to receive whatever information is for your highest good today. I invite you to come in full presence, focus, and joy, and just be open to receiving. And so with that, go ahead and open your eyes. And it's my pleasure to share Jimmy with you. First, I want to read a little bit about Jimmy Mack. Jimmy Mack is a renowned medical intuitive and spiritual coach and master of a variety of healing modalities. After a near-death experience, he was divinely shown and then developed a simple and fast way to create healing and profound transformational changes, now known as My Liquid Fish, Change Made Simple. He is the author of 9 books, over 30 energetic clearing and healing audio MP3s. He offers a mastery and practitioner certification program, and he hosted a weekly radio show called the Jimmy Mack Healing Show for over 5 years. Jimmy works worldwide with clients, accessing energetic powers and co-creating changes that they can actually feel. All right, that is so exciting. So welcome, Jimmy, and I would love to have you share a little bit about, I want to know more about that near-death experience.
Sure.
That is always really interesting. And so whatever you'd love to share from that experience, we're open to hearing.
Sure. Yeah. And so I did a lot of different healing modalities, as you'd mentioned, and really had a healing practice already. But I got really sick. I was in South Florida and I was a mess. So ended up going to the hospital, had my friend take me to the hospital, and they took out my gallbladder, and that was all well and good, but at some point I might have aspirated or something happened. So I was really, really ill, had just full-blown clinical pneumonia, and so I was a mess. So I was back in my little room, my oxygen saturation index had crashed, and it was very, very low. And it's never a good sign when the heads of all the departments come piling into your little hospital room, wearing their white jackets. So that's how you know it's a problem. And of course, I was intubated and I could barely speak. And I said to the one doctor, this must be a real problem. He said, "Why do you say that?" I said, "Because there's no students with you." And I thought it was funny. He didn't think it was funny. It's a teaching hospital, right? But you know, if the heads of all the major departments are in your room, it's bad times. So he said, well, we don't know. You got pneumonia. We don't know how. Could have been surgery. You could have brought it in here. And I'm like, no, I didn't bring anything in here other than, they took out my gallbladder. That was it. And he said, well, we can't be sure. Maybe we had bad labs or x-rays or whatnot. And I said, well, you got bigger problems then. He said, why do you say that? I said, we did all those tests at one of your ancillary locations. Your hospital owns the place where we got them all done. So that leaves only surgery, obviously. And so they just, the blood ran out of their faces. It's like, oh my gosh. So anyway, they just said, I said to the surgeon, pretend I'm your best friend, your little brother, whatever, your favorite uncle. What do we do? Stay here, go to ICU. He said, I'd put you in ICU. So I was like, lead the way. So I was in ICU and 3 days and 3 nights, and I was coding out every night, midnight, 2, 3 in the morning. Of course, there's no doctors in ICU at that time. And so the only people that brought me back were the nurses. So it was a dream to have the nurses at least there. But it was very profound. Each night was something different and pretty wild. I'm still working on a book all about that, of course, as a lot of folks do. And a lot of people have had a variety of different near-death experiences, but you could definitely feel larger beings in the room, people standing behind me, presence. You could really feel that. Each time I went out, it was like you're going up into portals of deep inner space. The best way to tell people is if they go to YouTube and they look up 432 Hertz music, that's the kind of music, anything healing, angelic, that sort of just woo-woo type of music. It was very angelic and wavy. It's the nearest way I can describe it. The colors were vivid. If you go to Google and look up images of the Hubble Space Telescope pictures, deep inner space, that's what I was going up into. Everybody's, I'm sure their near-death experience is different. I always think, hey, if there's a small African child on the Serengeti plain, I really don't think Jesus is there to meet him at the pearly gates, right? It's whatever their life path and their interpretation might have been throughout life and their learning and whatever their experiences have been. So that was mine. Never saw white light, never saw my brother who's already in spirit. So it was really odd, but it was very unique too. The colors were vivid, like nothing you'd ever seen here. And so that's what I felt leaving my body and going up into. So each night they showed me something different during that. I say they, it was really through my head and through the presence of being. And the main thing they showed me was the My Liquid Fish technique and piece. And so we're going to show you that today, but it's basically infinity. If you think of the 8 laying on its side, that's infinity. And Spirit said, take off the back left end. It's going to be reversed because of me looking at the camera, but the face of the fish is always to the right. And so what they showed me over time was you could trace this little fish, and you got to think of it as something out in the atmosphere, if you will, or deep inner space. So it almost looks like a constellation was the way they showed it to me. And all you got to remember really is the negative. I tell people the earth negative weakness is at the bottom fin, and we're tracing through that and releasing anything that's negative. And anything that's positive that we don't have would be heaven positive strength in the top left of the tail. And we're tracing the fish and bringing that back in. So it looks like a yoga or a Tai Chi move, if you will. And we've been doing it so long now and so much that it definitely has its own field. And there's people around the world doing it. When they first showed it to me and I was messing with it, of course, I didn't tell a soul for about a year. And so I'd have clients and I would try things out and just see what would happen, and I'd work on myself, of course, because I thought I was nuts, because nothing could be this fast and this simple and this easy, right? And so we tend to complicate things up, and maybe that makes it more interesting to us as humans, or somehow it maybe makes sense, or it might be more logical, or it might be more successful. It's more complicated, but this is super simple. It's open-ended. In other words, it's open source. It's out there. Anybody can learn how to do it. We teach people around the world how to do it if they want to take the course. And of course, we even have practitioners now around the world. So anywhere there's energy, is what you want to change. I mean, it won't work on rocks or the house, but it will work on anywhere we want to change the energy of something. And so there's energy in everything. So whether it's us or a pet or, we've got something going on, it works on body, mind, spirit levels, anything that people might have an issue with, it can actually change. And the fascination with it all is we never know what we're going to get. I've had people around the world, they might have a great experience. Maybe a very little bit happens. And also the time is always in their time, as you know. And so we never know, something happen immediately or 3 hours later, 3 days, 3 weeks, a year. But it's all over the map. But it's the wildest, fastest, easiest thing I've ever seen as far as creating change.
That's fascinating.
Mhm.
So what if you get a skeptic and someone's like, oh, I don't know about all this. Is it still effective on someone that doesn't believe in it?
It's so effective that, I've had doctor, lawyer, Indian chief standing in my office and people don't believe and they start getting dragged around the room. And so, they can still not believe, but something's happening, right? And so the entire piece too is enhanced and based upon, and we've all been to Reiki shares or had healings and maybe laying on the table, a whole bunch of people healing on us, and it's great. And we get up and we feel great. We're just not sure what happened. It's hard to quantify all that. So for people that know how to muscle test or use their fingers, that sort of thing, or use a little pendulum and get yes or no, or standing like we can do today with you as an example, that is how we figure out a yes or a no. And then once we quantify whatever's going on, then we can use the fish to change it. And when we do that, everything starts to change.
Okay, great. So
Hmm.
one more question before we jump into
Sure.
the experiment or the fish.
Hmm.
When you said you mentioned these beings, these large beings around you, do you have an awareness of who or what the
You
beings
know,
are?
yeah, I really don't. But what's interesting is that was about 11 years ago. And last year I had a very profound reading from a super, super psychic lady. And she didn't know anything about me, but she said all of this, what I know now and what I use for healing and also my being was way high up at Atlantis. So
Mm,
it makes more sense. So it's water. You and I are in Florida. Um, you know, the triangles down here, of course. Atlantis is one of the locations, they say. I mean, off Portugal as well. I mean, there's debate about that. Maybe there was several. I don't know. But yeah, that is the origin of it. And so that I think is where it came from. I mean, you really, honestly, you want to shake your fist at God stuff because who wants to take out a new method or technique to the world, right? It's a daunting task. So it's ridiculous, right? I'd have been happy just sitting in my little office the rest of my life and keeping my mouth shut. But so now we're just like, hey, here it is. Go wild, see what it can do for you. And the other part of your question, really about working on others or non believers, I mean, I'm so busy with really great people that are excited about the work. I'm not out there banging on doors trying to convince anybody of anything any more than you would be, in what we do. And so, but if they show up and they want to change things, it's profound. And the other cool part about that is we can always hyper jump to whoever the non believer is. So if I work on you and you want to work on grandpa in a nursing home in New York, we can do that. And so we would clean you up and then of course do grandpa, and then we would literally jump through you just like we would on a Zoom call with 3 or 10 or 28 people.
mm,
And so the energy is super efficient, it's super intelligent, and it finds its way. And so, I don't think either you or I are interested in converting anybody or talking them into that if they're non believers. But for the believers, or if you're on the precipice, this is profound. This is a real game changer. And so it's exciting.
oh, I love that. And I have a super strong connection to Lemuria, and
Mm,
I channel information from Lemuria. So I
yeah.
know
So
Lemuria
you
and
get it.
Atlantis we're connected.
Yes.
That one.
Correct. Yes. Love it. Absolutely.
All right. Well, shall we do something fun?
We'll play. Absolutely. We'll play. So what we'll have you do is you can stand up, of course, and you want to face due north. I've figured out over time, facing due north makes about a 20 to 30% difference in your pulls. And again, anybody that watches this in the future, yeah, you could use a pendulum, you can use your fingers, you can stand. And that's what we would do during a session anyway. We would have you doing that. We wouldn't be live video. In fact, I'm sitting there laying in bed with my cat, you know, my eyes closed to tune in. So, but this is for demo purposes. You get the idea. So right now she's in strong mountain pose, facing due north. Going to feel like somebody's literally pushing you forward for yes and pulling you backwards for no. So we'll start with I am clear and see if you go forward, back, or in between.
I am clear. Just getting a neutral.
Yep. And so we're going to change that. So all I'm going to do is fish out whatever's blocking you from that. And it's really a combination of your energy, my energy, and Zoom and everything else going on. And so there can be some little curses, spells, or hexes, or weird little negative vibes in that. And I just literally cleared them all out just by doing that. And now it's going to pull you forward harder to I am clear. And there you go. And so that's changed in your field, which is fabulous. The second piece we always do is called I am unclear. So you can say that, I am unclear.
I am unclear.
And kind of got a side to side or a neutral piece of that. So we're going to release all that too. And all I'm doing is fishing it out. It'll pull you straight back when it leaves. There you go. Yeah, isn't that funny? And so I call that alien fighting predator on the back steps. We definitely want to get rid of that. I know it's not you or me. It's just the energies probably in the house or the room or somewhere we bumped into along the way. And the third piece is called I am running forward. So we'll say that. I am running forward.
I am running forward.
And that test out pretty good. We're going to leave that. That's body, mind, spirit, relationships, health, and money. And all we're doing is putting the car in drive. So in other words, we want to dial into you. And, you know, I use computers as an example. It's super easy for people to remember. You've got to turn on the computer. Then you got to go to Google, the internet. And the third jump would be to your website. And that's it. And so we think of this as eBay or Amazon and dropping things in or out of a shopping cart. And so all we care about is deleting out the negative and downloading more positive. And that's it in anything we're working on. So we grab something for you that we want to change. We're dialed in right now to you and your software, if you will. And we can change things on a larger level. So what comes to mind for you? In other words, you know, you and I've got red tide down here.
Yes.
I mean, there's the pandemic. There's so much to choose from. The fires out west. I mean, let's grab something. What works for you?
Well, since we have this ocean connection with Lemuria and Atlantis, and we both live in Florida at the ocean, we have what's called red tide, which is a algae bloom that puts off a toxic gas and kills fish and wildlife, and makes it uncomfortable for people as well. So let's do something to assist with getting red tide back in balance.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so for folks that don't know too, it's a tremendous amount of respiratory issues with that. You can end up with sinus issues, nasal passages, sinuses, bronchial, and even lung stuff. And so if you're near the water, it's a mess. So we're going to find the location of red tide up and down the coast. And all I'm going to do is have you dial into it now. Going to pull you forward when we find all the red tide. And there it is. So all I'm going to do is fish it out, release it, resolve it, delete and erase it, disentangle it all out now, pull her straight back when you're done. And they're going in and grabbing even more parts of it. And then it's going to pull you straight back and release. So there's a lot of layers here. That's why you're bobbing forward. And then it's going to pull you straight back when all that releases.
Wow.
And there it goes. Yeah. Yeah. It's a wild feeling.
Yeah,
it is. And it's really cool too, because you're picking up on a humongous field that's bigger than you.
Yeah.
So that's why the pulls forward and back are going to be huge as well.
Yeah.
The other thing I would say to that too is there's so many ancillary pieces. You know, the Hollywood joke is about, 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon, and and they talk about different movie stars, and then they go, well, that's because that guy was Kevin Bacon, the actor's roommate in college, right? And so I find that all this is like always like 5 jumps away too. And so what we're doing even today can help, not so much, with the cleaning up of the red tide or anything else, but we want to inspire folks and have a solution show up. So just doing this today, they might announce, today, tomorrow, next week, next month, hey, we figured out another way to neutralize the red tide, or more financing might come in from the state or federal government, our counties, that sort of thing. Same with the fires out west. And so you get the idea. And so it's a support basis, and we want to clear out whatever the negative piece is of the red algae, which we just did. And we want things to improve for the wildlife and for the humans and the oceans, which, help us breathe, of course, as well. The other thing I would add to that, we'll go into a deeper piece, and this is what I would do for anybody that might have a migraine, gout, maybe their elbow hurts, doesn't matter. So we're going to do a bigger piece. We'll have you face due north again. And let's just do that Florida and our waters and our people have learned all the lessons that we needed to from red tide and the algae bloom.
Florida and our waters and our people have learned all they need to learn from red tide and the algae bloom.
And that's already pulling you to get forward to yes. And so that's fabulous. I didn't even need to fish it. And see, I know you have a phenomenal memory because you remembered all those pieces. People that couldn't remember maybe the first word or two, they want me to repeat it. It's a memory thing. You have a fabulous memory. You're really dialed in. Of course, I expect no less. The other piece would be to that is being caught up in blank still serves us. So again, could be gout, elbow, headaches, whatever. And we're just going to say having a red algae bloom and red tide still serves Florida and all of us.
Having red tide and the red algae bloom still serves Florida and all of us.
And on some weird level it does. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to fish all that out and release it. What a great thing to work on today, where the fish are, right? And so this is going to pull you straight back when it releases. I just changed it now. And there it goes. And so things like a cold or the red tide, you don't want them to continue serving you, because that means we haven't learned all the lessons we needed to from them. And it'll be just a continual repeat and a kind of a wave of repetitive things that we don't want to have happen. So there you go. I love it.
Amazing.
I
And
love it.
The imbalance with the red tide is caused by humans mostly, with the pollution and over the chemical fertilizers and things. It's over nourishing the algae, so it overgrows and blooms to a toxic level. In balance, it's fine, but we do need stricter regulations around the poison spraying.
No doubt. No doubt. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fabulous. Love that. Can only help.
What's that?
It can only help all of this today.
Yes.
Yeah. I love it.
Shall we do another one?
Oh, sure. Grab whatever you want. I love it. Yeah. You and I could go all day and play.
There's some obvious issues out in the world right now, which would be around COVID or wellness, or of course there's the dreaded vaccination conversation.
Right.
So
what I would do open-ended to that, and we just put in our newsletter, which will come out tomorrow, and that's all free too for folks who want to sign up for that. They just go to the website and sign up. We send out a little newsletter every week. But what came through recently, even in the past few days, is the immune system. So forget COVID altogether. Let's really strengthen everyone's immune system so it's a non-issue. The other thing I would do, and I'm just going to say it and change it, is I want everybody, who's had a vaccine to have 0 side effects. So I'm changing that right now, and perhaps get the best out of whatever the vaccine is. And for those that haven't had the vaccine, and for whatever reason they're not doing the vaccine, we want their immune systems built up. And even those that have had the vaccine, you still go all the way, circle back to immune system. So let's work on that for everybody. And so for anybody that hears the sound of my voice, sees this video now or in the future, we want to strengthen the immune system in all the humans that watch or hear this here and now. And I'm doing it now. We're just going to go to the heavens and fish it all in, and you're going to get pulled forward when it shifts. And let that pull. Yeah, because it's for a lot of people. It's hard to hold on. I know. Yeah.
I feel like I was gonna fall in.
Yeah, I know.
Wow.
And it'll bring you back to neutral once that's done. And now what it's doing is taking out anything that's going backwards, because it's taking out anything that is not congruent with the statements that we're making. And then it brings you back to a place of neutrality once that's done. And there you go. I love it. Yeah. Isn't that wild?
Powerful. And
yeah,
I
you can
literally
feel it.
feel like it felt like flying, like being
Mhm.
suspended in the air. And then this just like, and I was just
Yeah.
in a small airplane the last couple of days. So I was like, oh, it felt like being up in the air again, and not
Mhm.
really, like not having any resistance, and then just being kind of in the wind almost.
Yes. Love
There's
it.
no wind in my studio here.
Right. Isn't that funny?
Yeah.
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 And
It
so
really is.
people, believers, non-believers, what have you, at the end of the day, it's still based on dowsing. And back in the day, they would use the water divining rods, and they would find out where they cross, and that's where they dug for water, oil, or whatever it was you were searching for. And you could sit in your living room with dowsing rods and find out where that piece of missing jewelry was last, right? It would still point it out for you. So that's really what all we're tapping into. It's the power of all it is. It feels like Holy Spirit movement. It looks roughly like faith healing, you would think, on live on stage stuff, right? It's not funny. And so that's what this is all about. And so each one of us has that spirit within us as long as we're alive on this plane. And spirit knows what this is, and they know what this communication is. And so it's so wild because they understand this language, and we're making the fish, we're bringing good stuff in, or we're releasing things out, just like we did for red tide. Actually, we would take out the red tide, we're bringing in immunity for everybody else from the highest possible source. And so when they see this or hear the sound of my voice, it actually changes for them. And so that is really pervasive and a lot to get your head around and go, my God, how is it possible if somebody watches this in Oregon and maybe their immunity was weak, and it was yes, and then it leaves them and they watch this strengthen it, and it's going to pull them forward to yes and strengthen their immunity. So it's like, how do you get your head around that or explain it, right? And people will email all the time, they'll have this question, that question, and it's like, hey, after 8 books, the only thing I'm going to do in an email is create more questions for you. So so it's simple, but it's really deep, and there's a lot of nuances to it. So
Yeah, I really get how, I hadn't ever thought of it like this before, but like how I am the pendulum in that experience. And it's the same energy moving my body that would be moving the pendulum. I mean, universal energy doesn't care
yes.
if it's something hanging on a chain, or if it's a human body or something else. It doesn't matter what the device is. It's the intention and the energy that's being affected by it, and that's affecting it.
Yeah, no doubt. And it does, there's parts of this that really are into Nikola Tesla's piece, which is energy, frequency, vibration. That's what we're moving around into, the 369 arena of all that. So that really starts to get wavy and change all kinds of things. So, and space and time make no difference as far as distance goes. I mean, we could work on people orbiting the earth, or in another country or halfway around the world, still going to pull them around the room, won't matter. So pretty
Do they
amazing.
have to know that you're working with them? Like, let's say, like you said before, we could work on someone's grandfather, but if he doesn't know,
they don't have to know. No, because at the end of the day, there's a lot of people that are I started out in theta healing. They're awesome, but it's very permission based. So it's like, hey, are you okay if I change that? Well, if people are paying for time and money and we come together here and now, clearly you want to get that changed. And so all we're doing is deleting the negative, downloading the positive. At the end of the day, if we worked on your grandfather who's in a nursing home somewhere in Nebraska, it won't matter, because all we're really doing is supercharged, turbocharged prayer. And
Mhm.
that's the way I look at it. We are taking a statement or an affirmation and we're just turbocharging it until it really does have an effect on that person. And it would jump from me to you to them and then just take off from there.
Yeah, similar to like what we would think of as an incantation
Hmm.
or a calling forward, an energetic of healing, which is prayer healing.
Exactly.
And there are lots of different words to call it by, whether it's intention or prayer or incanting or
Hmm.
presencing the divine. Uh,
Perfect.
by any name.
That is all it right there. You get it 100%. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, fascinating. So I know that you send out emails. So if someone wants to have an experience of this, you're also offering a gift that is called the My Liquid Fish Online Starter Kit, valued at $80, and you're offering that to the viewers for free. Can you tell us about that?
Sure. Yeah. And all they need to do, we never spam anybody. All they need to do is follow that link and you just put in your name, Mary Jones, whatever, and your email address. So obviously, so we can send it to you. And that is really jam packed full of things. There's an ebook in there, there's affirmations, there's things I call it to read, watch, and listen to. There's video, there's all kinds of things in there. And it really expands upon, I mean, we've talked about it briefly today, but it really expands upon it so you can get a deeper piece of it and you can actually see the fish and all of that.
Yeah. And then, so can people do this for themselves and for others? They don't have to come to you, although they
That's
can
correct.
come to you,
Yep.
right?
100%. Yep. It's out there. It's open source. I mean, we started it, we brought it in from the universe, if you will, but it's worldwide. And so, yeah, they can watch, go to my YouTube channel. They can Google all kinds of things on it, learn how to do it themselves, with varying results. I mean, I would say, unless you had a session, then you'd really get a handle on it like we're doing today. It's kind of like I tell people, it'd be a bit much for you to read how to drive a car and I throw you the keys to the car and say, have it back in an hour, right? It could go horribly wrong in traffic. So, you do want to, this is something that I think is really layered. So that's why even in that package that we're giving folks for free, you would be able to read things, listen to things, and watch things. And with this layering, it just seems to come together and dovetail into an aha moment. And once you start playing with it long enough, then it starts playing with you. And so people become much more intuitive. Things just start to fall in place into their favor. And so that's the interesting part. But we've got everything from sessions to ebooks about how to do it to the audio MP3s you mentioned and a full blown course. We have a basic course that anybody can take. And then for people that have a healing practice like you or I, then they can go on and become a practitioner as well.
Fascinating. So you have a whole training on how
Yeah.
to
How to do it.
the practitioner
Yeah.
and really get into the energy of it. And I think there's also something about like the activation codes of taking the training. You're really getting more. I mean, you're listening, you're seeing, you're hearing, but you're really getting the whole energetic container sort of
Yeah.
installed or
Downloads,
downloaded into
downloads, exactly
your
right.
presence.
Yeah. And listen, I could tell you, it's like, and that's a great example, and I use it all the time. It's like you just went up in a little plane a couple of days ago, and you get the idea. I mean, if you and I go to flight school and we read all this stuff, and they throw us the keys to the plane and say have it back in an hour, it's probably going to end badly. So, but you want to you want to read how to do it. You want to go with somebody that's already a pilot instructor on how to fly the little plane and how to get things going before you end up doing it yourself. And then it's like a dream. But all the healing modalities I did, and there was a ton. I mean, I did theta healing, reconnective healing, matrix energetics, UN method, access consciousness, hung out with the monks. I mean, I did a little bit of everything, Reiki, of course, and different things. And those were like little planes, like you flew in. And this is the space shuttle. This is like going to Mars, and coming back. So
Mm.
that's what's wild. That's what differentiates this from everything else. I've never seen like this, and I'm still like a little kid talking about it. I'm excited when people get it and have that aha moment. I'm excited when they learn how to do it and they can help others. And, you could have one of you or me on every street corner. There still wouldn't be enough of us to go around for all the energy healing that the planet needs, that we as people need right now. It's more critical than ever. So, yeah, I encourage people to do anything they can in any modality to create change. So at the end of the day, I mean, it's death, taxes, and change. Those are the only things I can guarantee you. So,
Yeah, yeah, I love that. And it's like you did so much, sort of like
mhm.
in preparation. I was seeing like you distilled all of that. Like you had all these things, like probably a
Yep.
lifetime of studies, and
Mhm.
then you just distilled it where you just got the best, like bubbled up to the top, and you're like, here you go. This is
Yep.
simple, easy, quick, and just do this. And you
Yeah.
don't need
Love it.
to spend a lifetime learning all of
I
the.
I tell everybody you don't need a decade and six figures because I already did that. So
Yep.
this is the really, I call it really the cheat codes of life right here. You're going to figure out how to play this game fast and be much more accurate and create profound change, because at the end of the day, that's all we're looking at. So anywhere there's a weakness, we're just creating better change and strengthening that area.
Absolutely. And I
Mm.
love the idea around, okay, well, this might not like have the red tide magically
Yeah.
heal today, but it creates an energetic where there's a frequency out there that people can sort of tune into or catch
Mhm.
onto that's like, oh, let's let, new ideas or new ways of handling it or bringing in, like Nikola Tesla, I think, was all about channeling in these ideas
Mhm.
from a higher consciousness,
Sure.
and creating change with that. And I don't think the world was ready for it during his time, but it seems like now I'm hearing his name on a regular basis, and all of these technologies that are coming out that are based on what he was up to, which I know
Mhm.
was also what they were up to in Egypt, in ancient Egypt.
Right. Very
Um,
true. Yep.
yeah,
And if we
so
go
it's
back to Lemuria or Atlantis or anything else, I guarantee you they were doing this back then. It's just now being brought into me, a decade ago. It's been around for forever, and, very profound stuff. And like you mentioned too, even on the red tide piece, I mean, the governor could wake up tomorrow and stroke a check, or have the Environmental Protection Agency might come down there, or there's some scientist in the lab near us that's figuring out the red tide, and all of a sudden they go, oh my gosh, I know exactly what we're going to do now to change this.
mhm.
And that's the kind of change we're looking for, not just to clean up one section of the beach. We want huge, profound change.
Yeah, sustainable and
Yes,
multi-dimensional. Yeah.
absolutely. You
Yeah,
got it.
I
Yeah, you're
love
on point.
this. Well,
Hmm.
thank you so much, Jimmy. I think this is fascinating. It's so unique. Thank you for being the one to bring this technology to us and share it with the world. And so I'll be sure to include that link so everyone can find you and get your free gift of the starter kit and experience this for yourselves.
Love it. Yeah. And
Yeah.
thank you so much for helping everybody and being out there. I call it the lighthouse. You're keeping everybody off the rocks and, helping the ships navigate out there. And so we're thrilled to have you out there as the catalyst to help so many people and get the word out that there are other options, and you really need to look into other options if something isn't working for you. So thank you for you.
Thank you. And that
Hmm.
truly is my mission, is to let
Hmm.
people know you're not alone. We're all on this journey together. And there are easier ways to have
Hmm.
transformation and wellness and self-mastery. And so that's what this is all about, bringing those voices together and giving people alternatives to maybe what they've known before.
Love it.
Yeah.
Thank
So
you.
You're welcome. And thank you. Thank you everyone for watching. I appreciate you. And I can't wait to share more of these wonderful conversations with you. Have a beautiful day or evening. Namaste.